Alright, what's up you guys? It's bradyoakfitness here, and we have a topic for you today all about Conor McGregor and his recent extremely sus transformation we got going on. You know, Conor McGregor is obviously the most famous UFC fighter of all times, and he has gone through quite the roller coaster in his career recently, and he hasn't fought in about 2 years now due to his injury. He's been very active on social media recently talking about his comeback, and his transformation from while he was fighting to now is absolutely insane. The dude looks jacked. So we're gonna talk about whether he's natural or not, what I think, and where the evidence against him stands. Now, Derek from More Plates, More Dates did make a video similar to this. I actually didn't watch that video yet. I didn't want it to really interfere with my opinion, but I'll probably give it a view after I finish up this video. And I typically don't really make natty or not videos about fitness specific people because it's just kind of dumb at that point. Like in the sport of bodybuilding, a lot of people are on steroids. It's part of the sport, it's part of the culture. But when you're talking about MMA and UFC, I mean, it's not allowed. It is cheating to do that. And so it is an interesting topic to discuss because professional athletes in highly regulated, highly tested sports have been caught before, such as Olympic sprinters. That's a big one. Swimmers, whatever it is. These people are definitely getting caught, but it makes you wonder how many are not getting caught. And we're gonna discuss that as well. But let's figure this out, guys. Is Conor McGregor natty or not? Time to dive into it. Okay, so the testing methods that the UFC uses, they actually have a few different sources for their testing. All of them are third party. The UFC itself is not in charge of actually going door to door and checking in on their athletes, which I think is wise because I think a big argument for Conor McGregor being a cheater is that it's all about the money. They're just being paid off, whatever. I think that's kind of hard to believe because these are third party guys. Like it's USADA, it is, you know, different drug administrations in different countries. It is literal state drug administrations that are testing these athletes. I think it would be harder than you realize to just simply pay these people off and have it be quiet. Like at some point in the ladder, there'd have to be someone with an ounce of integrity that would like to get his name out there and totally take down the organization by being the whistleblower. I think fixing the actual testing is way harder than people realize. That being said, it is possible to go undetected, and we're gonna discuss that in a little bit, but typically, on average, a UFC fighter is tested 4 to 5 times a year. These are typically either around their fights or completely randomized in their off season. Now, it is plausible. For instance, I am a bodybuilding coach. I have experience with coaching athletes who do use drugs that would be illegal in professional sports that aren't bodybuilding. And so with that background, I think it is possible to cheat the system. If I were to go in and try to cheat the system myself, what I would probably do is take a low dose of testosterone propionate. The test prop, as we say, is a very fast ester, meaning that it clears the system a lot faster. The testosterone metabolizes quicker, so it's kind of in and out of the system a lot faster. And hypothetically speaking, if you were to dose testosterone propionate a lot, like very frequently throughout the week, you would see more micro spikes in the testosterone and potentially see less side effects that way as well. And so in theory, an athlete could literally inject testosterone propionate, 5, 6, 7 times a week, literally every single day, to maintain a high level of testosterone that is still considered natural, so not super physiological. As soon as you're dealing with super physiological levels of testosterone, then boom, you're done. The test is gonna see you have 12, 13, 1400 plus tests, and it's gonna be very obvious that you're cheating. Now, if you are always at like that 800, 900, maybe even 1000, and they see that very consistent, I think that's gonna go undetected. The issues with this too, though, that you're dealing with is that if you see any sort of side effects with that testosterone, for instance, if you have any sort of high estrogen and you have to take something to manage that estrogen, any sort of AI or aromatase inhibitor, as we would say, that's gonna be detected as well. So anytime someone is trying to take like any aromatase, anastrozole, whatever, Nolvadex, tamoxifen, like you name it, Clomid, any of those things are going to be detected in the drug test. So I do think that would be pretty hard to beat. You'd have to basically be taking a testosterone replacement therapy level of test propionate. You'd have to be doing it at a very high frequency, and you'd have to do so knowing that you're not going to run into any high estrogen side effects where you'd have to take other things to manage it that would also be detected. It's not easy to do that, but it is possible for sure. Another issue with that though is the SHBG, or sex hormone binding globulin, typically would be lowered, and that would be super sus as well, which would probably make them inquire on a few more tests and possibly be able to come to a conclusion that way. Yeah, it's definitely not easy, but like I said, it is plausible. Okay, but knowing that and seeing his transformation, I mean, he was competing around 155 to 170 pounds, meaning that he was probably walking around in the 170s to 180s, maybe as high as 190. I think right now he is a true 190-ish. I don't think he's put out his weight anywhere out there. If he has, please let me know in the comments, but he looks to be around 190, which at 5'9"-ish, maybe 5'10", I mean, that is a solid weight, and he looks it. He looks big, he looks muscular, it's all there. But the reason why, and here's my statement, the reason why I think that Conor McGregor is natural is because we're not taking into consideration the effect of his time off the sport, which has been paramount in his overall recovery and his body's ability to put on muscle mass. I mean, he literally snapped his leg, guys. Like, he wasn't doing anything for a very long time. And when you have an athlete that is in a severe, you know, like hardcore training camp for years on end, in a sense, where they're always either dieting to make weight or they're dieting to stay within range of making weight, and they're always in camps in and out, that type of athlete is going to be a lot more fatigued than an athlete who's sitting around doing nothing, essentially. Conor McGregor had a long time to recover, and I've seen this in bodybuilders, I've seen this in other athletes as well, but that time to recover has definitely given his body a chance to recover. I think it is a massive myth that a UFC fighter has natural high testosterone. I think it's because we correlate warriors and all this, you know, masculinity with high testosterone. I would bet you that most UFC fighters have probably lower to moderate levels of testosterone because of the high level of fatigue that they're putting on their body simply from training. We see this in all sorts of sports. I mean, especially endurance athletes are notorious for having low testosterone because they're running a lot. But you take into consideration that these UFC fighters are amongst the greatest athletes as far as power, as far as endurance in the world. I would bet you we would see a lot more lower to moderate levels of testosterone within these fighters during their peak times of performing. Conor McGregor took that time off, and I'm sure his hormone levels have recovered quite a bit. So right now, he probably has the highest levels of testosterone he's had since his mid-20s. He's had all that recovery, his cortisol's lower. On top of that, he's been in a solid surplus clearly, and he's put on healthy weight again. And the last thing to touch on is that this is kind of basics with sports training and sports programming. When you are training and creating a program for an athlete, you periodize your training in such a way where, to make this easy to understand, a UFC fighter is not going to be sparring and fighting as much, you know, 6 to 8 months out from a fight as they would 2 to 3 months out from a fight. You would increase that taper in sports-specific training, meaning that right now, because Conor McGregor doesn't have a fight anytime soon, his specificity with training is going to be a lot different, meaning that right now he's probably lifting the most amount of weights that he has ever lifted in the past 5 years. He's doing a lot more like heavy training with literal like resistance training, more so than fighting and wrestling and BJJ and striking and all those things that he does when he's a lot closer to a fight. So it's the perfect storm for him to look the way that he's looking right now. His testosterone is probably naturally the highest it's been in a long time. He's training with weights more than he's ever trained with weights before, because that's what you do. So he's probably more muscular and stronger, and he's in a surplus, and he's been in a surplus for 2 years. He hasn't had to cut down in weight. He hasn't had to try to make weight for a fight or do anything crazy like that. That perfect storm is why Conor McGregor looks the way that he looks right now. I guess in conclusion, I do think he's natural still. I do not think that he would risk how awful it would be for his personal brand to be caught cheating. I do not think in any way that that is worth it. Him winning one more fight is not worth his entire career crashing down for being a cheater. And because of everything I explained already, I think he's looking the way he looks because that's what happens when you get to chill for a couple years and lift a lot of weights and eat a lot of food and have healthy hormones. That's just what happens. Sure, it's plausible. It is definitely plausible. I just don't think it is, and that is my conclusion. But I want to hear what you think. I want to hear if there's anything that you think I missed in this video, so comment down below what you think. And this is definitely something fun to discuss. But yeah, we'll see what happens with his career, man. We'll see if he has it in him to come back. Maybe that extra strength that he's put on, extra muscle mass will help him in his fighting. Maybe he is just too old and washed up. Let me know in the comments what you think, but we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.